Alright, I'm about to embark on a 500-mile road trip in my Lexus LS400. It has 300,000 miles on it, which of course makes me a little nervous, not to mention I have had some issues. I love this car. I trust it to do it. Before we go, we need to do a pre-flight inspection on our vehicle for a road trip. So here are some things that you might want to check before you go on a road trip. Going on a big trip is stressful enough, so we want to keep this as simple as possible. Number one, we want to check all the fluids. We want to make sure we have enough of them. We want to make sure every fluid is properly topped off. That also includes windshield wiper fluid, definitely oil, definitely trans fluid, obviously, all the stuff. Make sure the fluids are good. Second of all, we're going to check the tire pressure. Tire pressure is enormously important for all vehicles. Your tires are the only things that connect your car to the road. Tire pressure is immensely important. It can save you money in gas mileage. It makes your car roll and feel well going down the road. We're definitely going to check tire pressure, and that includes the spare tire. On a road trip, bad things can happen too. So we want to make sure our spare tire can hold air and, well, is holding air currently. And then after that, we want to make sure the car is like clean and looks good and is ready to go. I mean, that's kind of optional, but I think having a clean car for a road trip is a good idea. And then you just want to clean out any junk that might be in there that you don't really want to take with you. Stuff that might, like, I don't know, smell bad or make you uncomfortable, that kind of thing. But yeah, we're just going to do a really basic check. I am going to lift the car and I'm going to inspect the suspension because I hear something, so I want to make sure I'm not going to die. Also, my car is lowered and I am going to a semi-off-roady place. I might encounter a few off-road encounters, and I want to make sure I'm not slammed when I do, so I'm going to raise the coilovers just a little bit. So that's something extra that I have to do in a lowered car, but we're also going to do that. Now, another thing to keep in mind is if you're going on a road trip, there's going to be a bunch of stuff you want to take with you. I think taking tools and roadside emergency type stuff is super important and a very good idea. So I'm also going to be throwing some tools in the back. Alright, I will be bringing my tire gauge along with me. These are super good to have. It's nice to have a nice one, especially if you do a lot of car stuff. I do have my Blue Point tire inflator that I will be using, and we're gonna get these all up to snuff. Unfortunately, these old chrome wheels, they tend to chip. This is a daily driver. I drive it in winter. I drive it through mag chloride. That eats away at the wheel. This kind of thing happens on the inside in the bead and can cause issues for holding air. Hopefully my tires will hold air for 500 miles. One of my tires is already quite low. This is not a good spare. First of all, it had a hole in it and it was temporarily repaired. It actually feels like it's holding air right now. I would be shocked if there is actually air pressure in it. You can also see around the edge of the tire, this is called a heat ring, which means the tire was driven on low air pressure. It can damage the sidewall and cause a blowout. Definitely not good. This is better than like a completely blown up and destroyed tire. This is certainly not really an acceptable spare, but I guess it's better than nothing. I don't know. These tire inflators can be had for very cheap. This is a Blue Point, which is Chinese snap-on. Realistically, there's Chinese companies that sell these not Blue Point branded for pretty cheap on Amazon. This makes things so nice. I'm doing about 40 PSI. I'm overshooting it a little bit because I do know for a fact that a lot of these tires lose a little air. Tires naturally lose a little bit of air because rubber is a little porous. Right, you don't have to take the spare tire out of the trunk, by the way. A lot of these tire pressure fillers have a two-way little inflator nozzle there so that you can actually reach in and get it from the back side. I just wanted to inspect this. Generally, the tire pressure on your spare is going to be slightly higher because it's going to sit for a long time. So usually like 42-ish is where I like to put them. I don't have tire pressure sensors, so it's not really as big of a deal. But on cars with sensors, you do want to overshoot it because they can cause a tire pressure light. I was helping a friend take a transmission to the junkyard, and it leaked gear oil into my trunk. It made it stinky. It's terrible. But there is this oil-soaked ring around the tire, and it's been like that and saturating for a long time. In combination with this heat ring, which is already bad, this tire, in my opinion, is like super unsafe. I mean, I am going to try and get it replaced, but I genuinely have a hard time saying that I would even run this in an emergency. I probably would. Again, it's better than nothing, but I literally think that this tire is a blowout waiting to happen. So now, under the hood, we're going to go through. You're going to look at every cap and make sure that the fluid is working for said cap. So if we have washer fluid, make sure that's full. We're gonna go for the oil. I'm gonna check the oil level and make sure that's all right. Take the dipstick out, wipe it off. Go ahead and go down. And our oil level is good. We got clean oil. Just did an oil change not that long ago. Fluid for trans. The transmission needs to be running, and it should be warmed up to properly test transmission fluid. All I'm really looking for is fluid condition, personally. I think the level should be fine, and the fluid seems good. Give it a smell. Make sure it's not burnt. Coolant reservoir, also incredibly important. We don't want to overheat while we're on the road. Is overfilled for some reason. Battery connections. We want to make sure all of these are tight and are not going to come loose ever, because that will cause our car not to start. We want to make sure our battery is nice and snug so it's not rattling around on our long trip. Consider your air filter. If it's all clogged, you're not going to get very good mileage. Your car is not going to be running as efficiently as it could. Steering fluid, important. Make sure it's there. Not a bad idea to bring some extra fluids along. You want to make sure these don't leak. Again, you don't want to end up like me and have an oily trunk. I know my car burns and leaks a little bit of oil, so not a bad idea to have with me. I think I'm going to have access to motor oil where I'm going, but not a bad idea. Before ever even considering going on a trip, it's definitely a good idea to check out your brakes and make sure you have plenty of pad lining material left. It can be a little difficult to check with the wheels still on a lot of cars, but we definitely want to make sure our brakes are in working order. And again, you know, it's your car and you drive it, so you need to be aware if there's any issues with it. I definitely have some issues on my car, but I don't think it's gonna be anything deal-breaking. I decided against raising my coilovers. I did find that this lower locking collar was loose. Not good, not good. I'm not gonna raise them because honestly, now that the tires are properly inflated and I stuck my finger in the wheel well, you know, I should have plenty of ground clearance. I'm definitely going to avoid, like, completely off-roading. I may have to go on a dirt road and some uneven stuff, but I should be fine even at the lower ride height. I was thinking that my strut rod bushings were cheap and failed on me already. I recently replaced them maybe a year and a half ago. Because of the lateral motion and the clunking that I was experiencing, I thought it would be that. I then realized I never actually changed the lower control arm bushings. I have done brand new control arms on the top. I have done the lower ball joint. I have done coilovers, and I have replaced the strut rod bushings, but I've never actually replaced the lower control arm bushings, which I kind of forgot about. And on the other side, the control arm is like literally touching the frame, so the bushing is pretty shot. Worst case scenario, I don't think the control arm is going to go anywhere. I don't think it's going to like fall out or anything. It's not great. Definitely hurts performance a little bit, but I don't think it's unsafe. So I am going to run it. It'll last at least a couple months. I'm glad it's not like a blown strut rod. But my pads are a little worn. They're probably about 50-40%, which is more than I was expecting. I did do a front brake job like pretty early on when I got that car, but honestly, that's been like 3 or 4 years, so they're faring fine, but my brakes are cool. Definitely good to check. Since we took the wheels off, we're going to go around and torque the wheels. I am going to double check, make sure every wheel is torqued. The last thing I want is a wheel coming off my car. I am bringing a bunch of tools. There's all kinds of stuff that I like to bring in my toolkit. So tire pressure gauge is not always in there. It's good to have some gloves. I have a mismatched pair. I do have a hat just to protect my head just in case. Sometimes it helps keep my hair out of my face. I definitely like to have lots of rags. It's good to have a cloth one as well as some just like, you know, paper ones. This is a huge tip right here. So you can get these big like carabiner things at Harbor Freight, probably a million other places, and you can get a bunch of combination wrenches and put them on this deal. So I have 10, 12, 14, 17, and 19s on here, which are really common Japanese car sizes. That is a solid pick for me. Also, sometimes little weird combination tools can be really helpful. This one's kind of an insane looking tool. It's very silly, but as you can see, it's a hammer. We also have several different types of aggressive, various types of pliers, wire cutters, etc. We even have an extra little bit here, but at least as a little mini hammer, this thing has been killer. Man, a pair of strong vice grips can truly pull off a miracle in some cases. I am not kidding. I removed a CV axle with a pair of vice grips by clamping on the bolt heads as hard as I can and then just hammering them off. I don't know. You can really pull some incredible shit off with vice grips. I'm not kidding. Little toolkits like these are also amazing because we have a whole socket set. You can also stash some extra extensions and other kind of things. This one's a mess. And then it also has a bit driver with all kinds of bits, extensions, all kinds of stuff. This thing has worked really, really well. The downside of this ratchet, we have every drive size, but obviously that adds a lot of length on either side of the head. So I am bringing a couple of ratchets just in case I need that extra clearance, but that thing actually has been a fantastic little kit. It's super compact. Just a cobalt kit. I actually won it in a competition. I'm bringing my coilover just in case. Another universal bit driver. Bit drivers instead of screwdrivers is the way to go in my opinion. And then we also just have some basic pliers. We have lineman pliers as well as needle nose pliers, super cheap. Allen wrenches, that kind of stuff. As far as the bonus stuff, I am bringing some power tools, charger, and a battery, and some extra oil. On the side here, a mechanic's 11th finger. One of these little deals is incredibly useful tool. A knife, any kind of cutting tool, really important too. I'm going to be bringing so many knives with me, so I don't need to worry about that, but, and a pen and that kind of thing, just in case. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the very basic kit, and if you're skilled enough, you can really pull off a lot with some really basic hand tools. Lest we forget, breaker bar with a flip socket. This socket can turn into practically every lug nut size. I mean, I only have 21 millimeter, so whatever. All right, she's all washed. We have good tire pressure, good fluids. All the stuff that's going with us is in there. I cleaned the interior. I'm not going to go into detail about cleaning a car, but there you go. Honestly, you really just want to do some basic safety stuff. 100% make sure all your tires are good, including the spare. Make sure you have all of your fluids that you need, and then also pack emergency roadside type of stuff. And then as long as the car is mechanically sound, that's kind of all you need. Again, you really want to kind of keep it more simple. You don't want to, you know, do a giant project on your car if you're worried about going on a road trip. There you have it. I'm ready. I'm excited. 9 hours of driving. Here we come.